Alright guys, TacticalRab here, and today I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. And with the Las Vegas Legion confirming their roster for the new season, Temp has given his perspective on other players in a similar role to him over the past season, saying that Dashy and Cellium in the two-horse race they had last year for the MVP were getting an awful lot of flack from parts of the community in terms of playing for kills a little bit too much. Temp often fell into a similar category among some of the fans, and he's definitely defended Dashy and Cellium here and saying, look, someone's got to get the kills on the team. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thanks very much indeed for doing that one. Plenty to discuss as usual. Firstly, this from Rage. I couldn't quite catch this on Gunless's story or actually see it or what was going on here on Instagram, but apparently he's in New York City this weekend, which like, could be something, of course, could be absolutely nothing. Wouldn't necessarily need to go to New York to get anything working, but it is worth keeping in mind where Gunless is going to go, if anywhere, just because Gunless did seem to imply that he's got a CDL spot a few days ago, and he seems, well, more positive about his possibilities going from challengers, getting the visa, whatever he needs, to potentially get back into a CDL team. So there are some questions around that where Gunless might end up. You'd thought that maybe a team would lock him down kind of quickly, but I will say that if New York have snagged Gunless and got him as one of their sub players, they probably don't need Gunless necessarily because they've got Wardy there as one of their subs. So it seems unlikely, I think, that they would get another sub in Gunless, but still, maybe New York want to just hoard all that talent. And in fairness, right, that Priester role, that's the big question to me, is to, like, if you're going to make a change on that subliners team, Priester is more than likely the guy that's going to be in question as to stay in that role. And Gunless, we even talked about, was a good option to replace him technically, at least theoretically, right, in that position. So one to keep your eyes on, because if Gunless goes to New York and a Los Angeles Guerrillas or even an OpTic don't get Gunless, then I think that's a big name player that is out of the league right now that should have a sub spot somewhere, and you would certainly expect to. So one to keep your eyes on for sure. I'm not going to lock it at all yet that Gunless is in New York and he's going to go to New York, because it's far from guaranteed, and just because he's on holiday there doesn't necessarily mean he's having meetings with the CEO of subliners or anything. But just one to have a look at. This just quickly here from Arcitys, just kind of showing the Los Angeles Guerrillas side of the equation, because they were also in an interesting boat where for them it's more like their SMGs that are in question. It's why, you know, players like Wardy and even Fame and Real that are on the Minnesota Rokkr, why these type of substitute players are few and far between. And also LAG will have to think about, because yes, Huke, Arcitys, the other guys on that team, Neptune and Spart, these guys are massive grinders. They've been playing some Cold War Chals left, right and centre over the last couple of days where they can, and they're getting all the time and they possibly can, playing all the time, which is going to be a positive aspect for this Los Angeles Guerrillas team. But if it doesn't work out, Huke and Neptune, one of those two will probably be the first to go, and therefore they need an SMG substitute somewhere. And look, there are some options out there, no doubt, but a lot of the best ones are arguably already kind of getting locked in here. So really interesting situation. Definitely intrigued to your thoughts and all that in the comment section below. Let's talk about this whole Dashy formal thing. First of all, informal quickly, just because the OpTic Halo kind of team is going to go to the World Championship in, I think is it in Washington or something, in Seattle maybe? And that's relatively soon, in just a couple of weekends time. So certainly looking forward to the beginning of that one. But Dashy was a player that was catching a fair bit of flack last season, right, from certain fans where, you know, Dashy would have great numbers, but the team wouldn't do so well in terms of series results. And in fairness, the numbers are important at the end of the day. Like, we saw him drop some crazy numbers, especially on defensive Tuscan control, and that was like obviously having a massive impact on their success, because kills in control do matter. It's literally a kill-based game mode. They mattered slightly less, in fairness, when the game changed to being decided off ticks for round 5 as opposed to just purely on kills. But still, kills are important at the end of the day, and the best players that are getting the MVPs are the ones generally with the best, well, the best KD. Now, the kind of key MVP candidate to me for the first 2, 3, 4 months of the season was Shotzzy. Not the best KD, but I think by far and away the most impact, especially in Search and Destroy. But Shotzzy had a bit of a hard time in the last couple of months of the season, and then it really was a two-horse race between Dashy and Cellium for the MVP. Now, for the upcoming season, this of course is the Las Vegas Legion team, Temp, Clay, TJ and Prolute, and several words here from Temp on not only the state of his team, but also the state of the role that he fits into and why he effectively needs to just deliver kills, and defending Dashy and Cellium, the hate that they were kind of getting, in that, well, look, someone's got to deliver the damage on the team at the end of the day. Temp's numbers here, actually, we'll look at in a second, compared to his records, were definitely implying a lot of people to say, you know what, Temp, is he really trying to win? Is he just playing for kills? You know, I think watching him, there was an element of that, but you can't really blame him to some degree, because, you know, he's trying to keep his spot in the league and try and make sure that Paris can build a better team next season now under Vegas. You know, if Temp was really playing for, you know, 100% for the win and his numbers are worse, Paris, they probably wouldn't have been any better than they were realistically anyway, and then, you know, Temp wouldn't have looked so good and wouldn't have his stock quite as high as it is. So there's always that balancing act arguably to be played, but you know, these are some of the words he said. So firstly, I'll share what he said on Prolute. Thought it was kind of funny, his comments actually here on some of his teammates. He talks about Clay, saying, look, why would I not want to play with Clay, one of the greatest of all time. They've never teamed before, to my understanding. Maybe in the occasional online tournament or something way back in the day, who knows. But it compares Prolute to Looney, which I thought was an interesting comparison. Looney, one of, Temp's OG teammates. Great player, of course, in terms of his results and, what he was able to do from a team perspective and being a great leader for the roster, and won many championships, Looney, in his time. But individually, not always the greatest player in terms of raw gun skill. We saw some interesting moments back in Cold War and even in earlier seasons where Looney maybe not shooting so straight, but being incredibly impactful to the team. Prolute kind of gets compared here to Looney by Temp, which I thought was kind of funny, really, just kind of implying that Prolute doesn't shoot that straight, but he's a great team player. I'm not really sure that's what he was getting at, but I think he was really trying to get across the point that Prolute is just a great team player, like Looney was, and will be an important piece of glue, really, to their team, just like Looney was to many former rosters that he's been on over time. He also says some words on TJ Halley, saying that with no slide cancel, TJ is going to be back in business on the SMG, which may be a fair point as well, if the movement is a little bit more tame than it has been previously, but also talking about his own role and the fact that Dashy and Cell don't deserve the hate that they got.
Clayster, he's a goat. He's literally a COD goat. Byron's just a team player. You need that, especially with me on the team. You know what I'm saying? I had Looney on my team. I don't want to disrespect Byron, bro. Byron's a delusional. I'm getting to know Byron a little bit. He's a little delusional. But he reminds me of Looney. I no disrespect. Some of y'all motherfuckers know the Looney and Cold War where he's getting turned on. You know what I'm saying? I know that Looney too. But I also know the Looney who won 8 chips, who hit the little drop shot around corners just like Byron be doing, who be grabbing the bombs, and is a team player. Nobody talks about Dashy or Cell. No, people do. People do. But let's be real. All the best ARs, you need to play your life and get a kill. There's never been an AR player that people were gassing that wasn't positive, that wasn't doing that. You know what I'm saying? That's literally your job as an AR.
So this is one of the comments that a lot of people were talking about at the time, right? I mean, this and Breaking Point here, despite being 0-2 in the Major 4 qualifiers, Dashy's KDs are higher than ever, right? A hardpoint at 1.21, Search and Destroy 1.3, and Control almost at 1.7, right? Now, look, you can't really read, I think, too much into this. It's only 2 matches this was played across, but yes, like, his numbers were great and the team was losing, therefore everyone says, wow, Dashy's just baiting his team. At the end of the day, that is his role to some degree. The team gets to decide at the end of the day how they play the game, and the team knows better than anyone does what the stats are, how things work in practice. Like, they practice left, right, and center all day. They know that if they're going even in scrims in hardpoint with a certain team and Dashy's dropping a 1.2, then, is that good, is that bad? Or if they make Dashy play in a different way, and he can play in a different way, right? I mean, these players are adaptable, the best in the world. If they want to play slightly faster in a different way, they can. And that was the question that a lot of people had around FaZe, right? It was like, okay, look, Cellium's dropping these insane numbers, but his Arcitys getting left out to dry a little bit. Like, Cellium has posted up on a hate glitch here, and Arcitys is going out to die, and it's like, well, okay, Cell's numbers look great, but is that really helping the team? That was a question many raised. But at the same time, the team decides how to play, and I'm sure that, these type of things for Cellium, for example, were raised in practice, and they decided, you know what, look, Cellium is best placed when he's kind of posted up there, just going to get kills, and then, Arcitys needs to sacrifice his life, that's okay, it's the best for us. And I think fans can understandably look at it and think, okay, is this actually valid, right? Are they actually playing the game in the correct way? Or, is Dashy, Cellium, and others in a similar boat, getting kills with not really too much impact behind them? So always a question that will be raised in Call of Duty. These were Dashy's numbers over the course of the season. We saw a similar topic of conversation a few years ago back in Modern Warfare, certainly with Octane, right, or even Wuskin. There was a big conversation around those two at the time, because Octane would consistently drop, I remember aBeZy Cave Hardpoint, Octane would consistently drop a 1.4, no questions at all, 1.4 to a 1.7, that was his standard range. It's kind of expected. You're an AR on aBeZy Cave, a lot of SMGs running at you from long distances, you should be gunning them down with the M4, but his team would consistently lose those games. The question was, okay, look, Octane's dropping a 1.4 here, but the team is losing, most of the games that they play on hardpoints, so is Octane doing something wrong compared to other ARs that maybe have worse KDs, but you could argue are more impactful? That was a question that was raised, and just because the team decides to do that doesn't necessarily mean the team is correct to do that, right? Of course, they've made their decision on how they want their players to play, and I'm sure, if the coach says to a Wuskin, for example, back in Modern Warfare, because Wuskin was in a a similar boat. He would drop like 1.4 sometimes in hardpoint, and the team would maybe have a 50-50 hardpoint record sometimes. And even in Search and Destroy, you saw it a lot with Waskin, where he was having the sniper rifle out, and he was quite often last alive with the sniper, certainly on a map like Arclov Peak. And the question was there, is he just baiting, or is this how the team was wanting him to play? You would imagine that if the coaching staff said, look, we want you to go quicker, we want you to do XYZ, play this hill differently to be more impactful, they would do that. Maybe they just feel like that method of playstyle is actually the way their team operates best. That's kind of what Temp is trying to get across here. That like, yeah, look, someone's got to get kills at the end of the day. You do need someone to deal out the damage, but there is the question there, because we've seen teams like, you know, New York Subliners, for example, when they won the Prime Classic and when they came second at Major 4, they didn't have like a key slayer. Kismet was like such an impactful player on the SMG side, but in terms of AR action, Paulx and Krim were both dropping, you know, sub 1 KDs probably. Hydra was probably the guy most positive. They didn't have an AR dropping crazy numbers, and they were for a brief period of time arguably the best team, or, you know, New York were top 3 certainly throughout the Prime, and certainly at Major 4 they put on a great performance as a full team. And we saw a similar thing from Thieves at the end of the year. Octane no longer dropping the 1.4s he used to. He was more like a 1.0, 1.05. Like the entire KD is for the Los Angeles Thieves at the end of the season. That was the most arguably impressive Call of Duty I've seen in a very long period of time. Their entire team KDs spread from 1.04, 1.05 up to 1.09 or something, or maybe 1.1. Like that was the entire spread of their whole roster. All of their players were in that range. Never really seen that before, and that was practically the team figured out. Perfect Call of Duty in Vanguard. May not be the case in other titles, but from my perspective, this is how teams will start to go away from players dropping crazy numbers and high KDs consistently, more towards like incredible teamwork, which to be honest, that was the difference maker for Thieves at the end of the season. Their teamwork was so good that they never really felt like they were in doubt of being at least top 3, top 2 at the World Championship. Whereas when you rely on someone slaying massively, when they don't and occasionally have an off series, then you like for sure lose most of the time, which is the bit of a concern here, right? We look at the entire season, none of the LA Thieves guys are even in the Cellium index here, which is percentage of series going positive. At least not in the top 10, and I'm sure for the last few events of the season, it probably would be a rather different story. But definitely tweet your thoughts and all that stuff in the comment section below. And just to finish out here with this from Crone, 2022 to 2023 season predictions. First team to make a change, Rookie of the Year, Season MVP, first on standings, last on standings, teams that will win a major CDL champions. A bit too much for me to go through all today. I might give a couple of answers here. Rookie of the Year, I think I've probably got to go for Scrappy. There are maybe some other options out there, but Scrappy on Toronto is probably the player that I'm most excited to have a look for, and I can't really choose anything else, let's be honest, can I? And I mean, yeah, who else? First on standings, I'll probably have to go for FaZe. I think they're just too consistent with it at this point. Last on standings is interesting, because to me, it's either between Florida, Vegas, and London for the worst team in the league. I honestly, like, I don't know what's going on in that London camp right now. It's all drama, I'm sure, maybe behind the scenes. And I don't know, I kind of want to like this team, but I don't have that much confidence. Like, Florida should be good at search. Vegas, I have hope that they will at least be somewhat decent by the end of the year. Like, so yeah, I don't know. I might even say London last on standings, which just kind of pains me to say, but I don't really have that much confidence in that team this season. And maybe I'll do some more predictions and stuff, and I'll look at some of the replies to this over the coming days as well. I'd very much enjoy your thoughts in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit the like button, tell us YouTube gods, this is a good video, and I was like, you should see it as well, and I've grown the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you as always, take care, and I'll see you next time.